Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited about today's episode for a number of reasons. Number one, I love doing interview episodes, as I know all of you do as well. And I continue to appreciate all of your support that you give of this podcast, coming up on 4 years going strong. The second reason is I love outside the box thinkers and, people that kind of went against the grain. And as you guys know, I always talk about being a salmon in the world of fish. And, Phil Portman is one of those people. He's the founder and CEO of Textdrip, where they do and create email and text campaigns for businesses, entrepreneurs, people in the online space, but also brick and mortar as well. And we're excited to talk about all that and more about his journey and where the company is going moving forward. So with all that behind us, Phil, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you for having me today.
So let's back up the cart before we end up going forward. So for people that are not familiar with, Phil and Textdrip, talk a little bit about what you're up to and what the company is, but also more importantly, what was that catalytic moment for you that set you on this path of entrepreneurship that landed you becoming CEO of Textdrip?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of a long journey. I started off in the corporate world and had a little side business going on. We were flipping houses. We had some rental properties. And I remember the day that my partner at the time came to me and said, "Hey, you got to quit your job." And it was a little bit of peer pressure, I think, at the beginning to do it. I was scared, I think, like a lot of other people, things like, what happens if I fail on my own, health insurance, things like that. I had a family and I was the sole provider. And so there's big risk. And I remember carrying my box out to the car, and I made a mental commitment to the universe that I was never going to work for somebody again. And that was the day that did it. And I think that's an important thing, an important moment in any entrepreneur's journey, is to have that moment when you go and you're standing on your own 2 feet and you're doing your own thing. And went from that to flipping houses. We had some rental properties, and I had this little side business that was a food delivery business. It ended up growing. We franchised it, operated in 6 states. I ended up selling that to delivery.com. And then took the tech side of my business and we opened it up and started doing some SaaS businesses. Textdrip being our primary one. And it's just kind of taken off from there. I know it's kind of dorky, but when I was writing on my whiteboard, my list of goals, the thing I wrote down is I wanted to be an inventor. I know it's kind of a dorky word, but I wanted to invent things. I wanted to create things. I wanted to solve problems. And that's what really drove me into the business that I'm in now. So although I'm not making physical products, our team is solving problems and inventing things in the digital space to solve problems. And that's what we're doing. And in business, I found that that's the thing that works for me, is finding a need, finding a problem, solving it. And then we figure out afterwards how to make money out of it. So that's kind of where I've been on my journey.
Couldn't agree more. My wife and I love the SaaS model. We actually have 3 different subscriptions, about to launch a 4th. For the audience that's not familiar with a SaaS business, talk a little bit about that so they know exactly what we're speaking about.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So you think about the old days prior to the internet, and you'd buy software and you'd pay a lot of money for a software platform, and it was yours to own. Well, along the way, the companies learned that instead of charging a massive amount for a software up front, we could make a service out of it. So we could take that software and instead charge a monthly or some sort of subscription service that you're paying for. A few benefits to that: more people prefer that option of monthly payments than having to spend thousands of dollars up front for a software solution. And the other side too is that it enables you to continuously develop the software. So when we look at services like Textdrip, if you were to look at the platform a year ago compared to what it is now, it's almost indistinguishable. It's completely different. There's a ton more features, a ton of things that we've had requests from customers that we've added on. And so the subscription model in software in general works. Adobe learned this. You remember Photoshop years ago, probably one of the most pirated software platforms because it was so expensive. You had to invest thousands of dollars up front to pay for that. Well, years ago, they went the subscription model where you could get, Adobe Photoshop around $30 a month and up, and start using the platform. Well, suddenly it opened up adoption to everybody because everyone could afford it. And so it ended up increasing the revenues of Adobe, and they ended up doing really well for many years on the subscription model, and they continue to trend in that direction. So.
Yeah, my wife and I, we have a subscription model that's based around a posting platform for social media. And just like you said, as our subscription base has grown, we've able to work with the developers on our team and integrate new things, whether, we're going to be able to pre-schedule and post to TikTok at some point in Q4. There's new features added all the time, but just like you, we ask our growing community, what do you want to see? What do you want more of? And that way we can invest back into it, work with the developers, and then launch a new feature. Now, going back to your corporate days, even though you were always doing something on the side, that's the entrepreneurial spirit in you, and I can totally relate to that. What is something that a lesson or a takeaway from your time in corporate that was really meaningful, that helped you with the foundations and the infrastructure, even with the house flipping, the meal delivery service, and now Textdrip? What did you learn on the corporate side of things working for someone else that's helped you become a successful boss running your own company?
Yeah, absolutely. So the corporations have figured out a way to take people from a variety of different skill levels and still be able to perform in their way. And oftentimes I see entrepreneurs get stuck in this self-employment role. They call it hustling, but they're just working themselves to death, right? 80-hour weeks, and they just keep grinding away at it, and they're never getting to the next level. Well, there's usually three things that are limiting them, and that's organization, automation, and delegation. It's essentially getting things off of their plate that they can delegate to other people. And I'd say my biggest takeaway from the corporate world was really that component. So how do you structure that out? How do you follow up? What do one-on-ones look like, right? The corporate side of things that allows you to hire employees and have them help run your business so you can scale it. If you can't move and put on that hat to move on to the next realm, then you're always stuck because you only have so many hours in a day that you can work, and you're going to cap and limit your business. So I'd say that the major thing that I learned from the corporate world, and we can really all learn from, is their ability to scale, because those corporations have figured out a way to start off as probably a mom and pop shop, and now they have thousands of employees. Well, the only way they could do that is to implement some of those organizational strategies that allowed them to do that. And I fortunately was able to take a lot of that stuff in my business today, and I'm still doing it today. I'm still learning constantly things from the legal side of things to the HR side of things. That's a lot of things that entrepreneurs don't think about, but you're suddenly forced into those worlds, and you have to learn about it. So, but that organizational structure is probably a hugest takeaway I could have taken from the corporate world.
On the flip side of things, what do you feel was the biggest bottleneck in running your own business? Something that maybe as you lifted the veil on becoming a business owner rather than an employee, and for all intents purposes, all the listeners out there, there's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and being an entrepreneurial business owner, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that can do different things. But when you grow and scale a business, as Phil is, and as Nancy and I are, where we have 10 people now, behind the scenes helping us run the company. It opens up a lot of things that were not prevalent or visible when it was just a 1, 2, or 3-man show. So what was the biggest bottleneck in the very beginning that you maybe unexpectedly had to deal with, as opposed to the things that you knew you were going to have to deal with?
Yeah. So myself, obviously, I think every entrepreneur you get in the way yourself, and it's a couple mindsets. So when you go from being an employee, you're constantly proving yourself in that environment so that your boss notices you, you can get promoted and so on and so forth. Well, it's not that way in the entrepreneur world. Nobody in your organization really cares. You're not proving yourself to anybody. And so when you are the smartest guy in the room, you're the most knowledgeable one, and the organization depends on you. That's a bad place to be. You create an environment where your employees are constantly having to ask you questions, get permission from you. They're scared to take risks. They're scared to go outside of their comfort zone because you're the guy that created the company. You're the guy that knows everything. You're the smartest guy. And I think getting out of that mindset was something that I really had to learn. And I learned it kind of a tragic way. One of my franchise owners at 37 years old had a brain aneurysm, and his business was kind of upset by it, but we kind of stepped in and helped him out with it. But it raised a question from a lot of my other franchise owners. They said, well, what happens to our business, which we've all invested in, if something happens to you, Phil? And I said, well, that's a damn good question. Because everything was in my head. A lot of the knowledge, a lot of the things that we were doing, the plan, all of it was in my head. Even access to some of the servers and things like that. I had access to everything, and nobody else knew how to do anything. And so that was the moment that I really started saying, you know what, we need to have a strategy that does not rely on me for anything. Anybody else in my organization could pick it up if they needed to. We created an entire wiki for our company where anyone can go on there and search any of the articles. I made sure that everything from the QuickBooks to the marketing plan to the servers, somebody else had access to know how to do it. And that was probably the start of it. And then after that, it was allowing my employees to take risks, to make mistakes, to think outside the box, to play around with ideas, even if initially I didn't think they were the best. And it developed leaders in the organization that ultimately are smarter than I am. And I think that's really one of the biggest differences that I took from a mindset shift going from the corporate world to an entrepreneur world is you do not want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to surround yourself with much smarter people.
I could not agree more. And duplication is a big, I would say, foundational piece to really growing and scaling a business. But I think something else that you said is that allowing people to fail, allowing people to make mistakes, because just like, we're both parents, and, you never want to hold your kids back from learning mistakes, whether it's when they're learning to walk and, they fall down, right? Or they're, getting into sports and they don't know that they have to run to first base and they run to third base instead. You have to learn to fail before you learn how to succeed. And the same thing goes for when you're running a business. You want your employees or your contractors or the people that are a part of your team to take those risks. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't pan out. Sometimes they fall flat on their face, but I'm not going to scold that person for taking that risk or, stretching outside of their comfort zone, because again, that shows that they want to do something different. And that's where growth happens. That's where, the bigger events within one's business starts to take place. You don't want to hold people back. You want to push them forward. You want them to grow. You want them to excel. You want them to, far exceed not just our expectations as the business owner, but we want them to far exceed the expectations that they even had for themselves. So as you kind of progressed through, you grew and scaled your franchise business into 6 different states. You ended up selling it to fooddelivery.com. At that point, I've owned and sold businesses as well, and you get to that point where you sell the business, you've made some money, and then you're thinking to yourself, well, now what?
Yeah.
And I come from a fitness background, so the now what for us was pretty easy. We sold 2 gyms to open up another one, and so on and so on. But for you, what was that now what for you after you got into the food delivery service, franchised it, sold it, and the bridging of the gap, right? So that space in time where you had sold the business, and it was that in between phase that led to um Textdrip. What happened in that time period that led you to starting that side of the business?
Yeah, great question. So, in business, it's something that comes up a lot is like imposter syndrome, right? So I'm not qualified to do this. I don't have enough knowledge to do this. And selling off the business, that was one of my most successful businesses. In the back of your head, you're like, was that it? Like, should I just retire right now? And just, yeah, that was it, man. I did my business exit strategy and I'm done. But I did a self-reflection and realized along the way that I had learned a ton. I mean, I essentially had a degree in entrepreneurship throughout that portion. I had made connections in the technical world. I had developers that worked for me, from franchise law. I'd learned all of that, and what it took to build a successful business owner or employees. I had created a call center. I understood customer service more in depth than I ever did. And so there was that moment where I was thinking, like, what the heck am I going to do? And then the idea was, I can take the knowledge that I already have, the stuff that I've spent the last 6 years learning, and do something with it. And so my first step was figuring out, what problem can I solve? And so I started doing some digging, and we were heavy into communication and automation. We had a call center and a texting platform on the previous platform that we did. That's how we communicated with our customers. And I said, well, I think we could take this and do something with it. Doing some investigating, we knew that this new 10DLC thing was coming out with 10-digit phone numbers. And we knew that was going to be a catastrophe for a lot of the text messaging companies out there. And so my thought was, if I can figure that out for businesses, if I can solve this problem, I bet it's going to be huge. So it was started off with an idea, and I started putting a lot of money and time into it. And I remember my lead developer going, are we making money at this? Like, you're spending a lot of money on the development of this. I was like, no, I got an idea. Let's go through with it, And so there was a long period of time where I was hemorrhaging money into building this platform, but it paid off. And it paid off exactly like I thought it was going to. All of these other platforms that their messages weren't going through, they were failing, it just wasn't working. And they started coming over to us. So with very little marketing budget, our business expanded exponentially. We were doing 40% month over month growth in this business, and it skyrocketed. And I would say one of the coolest things ever is to come up with this idea that you have out of thin air, nothing exists for it, to create a solution for it and it be successful. I'd say that's, whether it's writing a book, writing a song, starting a business, whatever it is, when you see that to fruition, it is one of the coolest things on earth, because you're literally building something with, your own 2 hands, your own brain, out of thin air. And to see it successful, there's nothing cooler.
That's amazing. And again, that's why one of my wife and I are one of our favorite books is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, because he constantly talks about the thinking stuff, right? The stuff that flows between the 6 inches in your ears, that when you have a thought, you can create and form an idea. And when you take that idea and you put something around it, like a business or a product or a service, that's how you can open up pathways to money and then impact, and then helping people and solving problems. I always tell people the most successful business owners are the ones that have figured out a way to solve a problem that a lot of people are having. And when you can figure that out, obviously it's going to open up so many doorways and pathways to not only just being successful, but really helping a lot of people and serving them in the right way. Now,
Absolutely. I think there's another component to this that drove to success, and there's this level of arrogant confidence. And I call it arrogant confidence because even to yourself and on the outside, you're like, does this really make sense? Like, you're going to have things that fail. You're going to have ideas that just never pull off. You're going to have ideas that are successful, but along the way, you're going to have family and friends that tell you you're crazy for doing this. You're even going to have customers tell you, hey, there's a better thing than whatever you have going on right now, right? And the drive to it, and some of the most successful people I have, they have this just level of confidence that you would call arrogance, because there's nothing else that drives them through all the no's, all the failures, all the hemorrhaging of money to get the success that they want. So I say arrogant confidence is one of the drivers that you need to have if you want to take an idea and breathe life into it.
you're not going to please everybody. Are there going to be other people in the space that are doing something similar to what you're doing? Sure. But
Absolutely.
I'm not going to let the thoughts and opinions of others dictate myself or my business. So if there is something out there just like what we're doing, fine. There's plenty of people in the world. There is plenty of impact and money to be made. And if you start putting yourself into that comparison game, right? The imposter syndrome, well, maybe they're right. Who am I to have this business? Maybe I'm not cut out for this. And again, I agree with the arrogant confidence, being so confident it doesn't matter what's going on outside of your little sphere of what you're doing, because you're not going to let something take you off of your path. You're going to continue moving forward no matter what, because there are going to be things that try to pull you away, whether it's something that someone says online or right to your face, or most likely behind your back. And that's just part of the game. That's part of being a business owner. It's going to happen. Now, with email and text campaigns, obviously it's something my wife and I have been leveraging much more since we've grown and scaled our online business. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes in the beginning stages, others that are just getting started. Others have been in the game for a while, but they're not really leveraging the text and email campaign side of things. For that person that's listening to this that really hasn't stepped into that realm of connecting with their audience, nurturing their connections and their email list or their text list, how important at a certain stage in your business is it to implement some sort of text or email campaign strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we're all busy. And if you think a communication of one and done is going to work, it doesn't. In most cases, we're seeing 3 and 4 contacts before somebody actually responds to whatever it is. All the marketing data shows it as well, right? The more places you can reach somebody, be it social media, email, text, the more they're seeing it, the more they're going to trust your brand, and then the more likely that they are to respond to it. So gentle nudges that are important. I get them all the time. Somebody will reach out to me for a platform or a service or something like that. I'm busy. It's not the right moment, but then boom, it comes at exact the moment where I have time to look at it, time to research it, and then I become a customer. And so that's really what it's about. Texting with Textdrip, the reason why we went that direction was everybody opens an unread message on their text messages. Everybody does. If you have a text message in there, you're going to open it, you're going to look at it. Email, on the other hand, I can't tell you how many unread messages I have. Nicole, who's probably listening to this, she's probably like 10,000 or something like that, because she goes through and yells at me about it. But that's just the nature of it. And then the way that email works, like Gmail, where it categorizes it into different categories, promotional, social, and that sort of thing, it's even worse. So texting is by far the best way to communicate with your customers. And so if they enroll or they apply on your website, they want more information, then you can periodically send them a message reminder, appointment reminders up to the date and that sort of thing. And that's really why it's important to do drip campaigns, because it's going to do it automatically. And we went back to talking about the things that prevent you from scaling your business are often organization, right? If you got Post-it notes all over your office and you're forgetting to follow up with people, right? That's going to cap you out in your business. We talked about delegation. So are there things that you can hand off to somebody else? And if you can't quite afford a US worker, you could certainly go with like a virtual assistant overseas or something like that at a much lower rate. And then the last one is the automation. And that's really where components like what we have come in, because rather than you constantly having to remind to follow up with somebody, you just add them to a campaign and then forget about it. And then boom, once they come back in, you're ready to talk to them.
Yeah, it's about simplifying and creating ease in your life. There's a certain things obviously need to be automated and taken off your plate. Other things aren't. If you're really into connecting with people and building relationships, doing podcasts like this, you got to create this. There's no automation which comes with this. But in aspects to nurturing and reaching out and touching those warmer leads or potential clients and customers, something that Textdrip offers, and being able to reach out to someone via text or via email. It is so vital to stay in front of your people at all times, where again, that front facing time that a lot of people are doing things by hands, that's just going to require you to spend more time in your business instead of working on your business. And there's a big difference. When you're spending a lot of your time working in your business, then you have less time to work on it. And if you don't have any time to work on your business, how are you going to grow and scale it? So
absolutely. How are you going to do things like this podcast or creative things that you want to do, or look at business trends and ideas, if you're constantly the one in the weeds, stuck in the weeds, running the business? And that's really what the automation, delegation, that sort of thing is about, is what can I take off of my plate? And obviously the creative things you can, but what can I take off of my plate that's still going to run the business, it's still going to operate, that would allow me to take the business to the next level and do those things like this? So
exactly. Now, as we wind down, just a couple final questions. So if someone was to reach out and ask you, what's the big difference between Textdrip and other, text or email campaign subscriptions or automated models out there, what would you say are the big differences between what you guys have created to others out in the space?
Yeah, absolutely. The primary one is ours works. I mean, we focused really on deliverability. There's a bunch of reasons. There's other platforms that, like, their texting is based on Twilio, which a lot of the scammers use. It automatically gets blocked. We spent a lot of work making sure that if you send out a message to somebody, it's getting to their handset. So that's the first and foremost is the deliverability component. We've got the best deliverability in the industry. The other side is the customer service. And it amazes me how many tech companies out there send you to a forum. They're like, hey, figure it out on your own. They have no customer service route. We've got phone, email, chat support. In the bottom corner of all of our sites is a little chat bubble. If you reach out to support, they respond within 30 seconds, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. And we are super aggressive with our customer service. When somebody comes onto our platform, we actually do a Zoom demo with every single customer that comes on to make sure they understand how to use our platform, but also how to best utilize it for their business, to free up space, make more money, whatever they want to do. We help them out with that. We provide free webinars to people that have nothing to do with Textdrip, just in general. Could be on money management, time management, anything that's going to help out with entrepreneurs, self-employed, and that's our primary customer. So the two components are, we have the best deliverability in the industry, and then I believe we have one of the best customer service setups of any tech business out there.
Awesome. Now, if someone's interested in learning more about what you guys are doing with Textdrip and how they can find out about how to get involved, what's the best way for people to either connect with you or find out about the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look up Phil Portman, you go to philportman.com, philportman.com. It also has my Successes podcast on there. We've got all the different platforms and SaaS products we're working on, so you can go on there. You can look up Phil Portman on any of the social medias. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them. So you can follow us on there. And I love to talk to other business owners and self-employed people. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Jump on there and send me a message.
Awesome. And for all the listeners, all that information will be in the description of the episode. So if you want to connect with Phil, obviously his website and all the other ways to connect with him will be included. And as always, please leave a rating and review of this episode. Let us know what you loved most about it. Phil, final question before we sign off. What does success truly mean to you?
Yeah, so success for me is being able to do what I want, when I want, with whoever I want. The fact that I can, in the middle of my day, jump on a podcast and do this and talk with other entrepreneurs and successful people is awesome. And it's amazing. And I have the freedom. I don't have to worry about a recession coming up, right? I don't have to worry about that. I can create opportunities for employees and people that they can, grow inside my business and do some amazing things. That type of feeling of freedom and stepping outside of the matrix of a 9-to-5 is what success means to me.
Could not agree more. My wife and I always talk about it's not the time that you're spending working. It's really the time that you spend while you're living. And my wife's reading this great book, and she just turned to a page this morning and it said, you have a last time for everything. And you don't know when it's going to be. You don't know when the last conversation with a loved one you're going to be, the last time, you drive in a car, the last time. You don't know when the last time is going to be. So live right now, squeeze the juice as much as you can out of each day. And when you can create a life where you can create your own time each and every day, that is true fulfillment. Well, Phil, I appreciate you being here today. Love the conversation. Love hearing your journey. And again, grateful for you and the connection. And again, congratulations on all the success. And myself and the audience appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Absolutely. So everyone, again, go leave that rating and review. Let us know what you loved most. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.